What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of my rock review. The album I'm about to talk about today is The Doors' fourth studio album, The Soft Parade, released in 1969 on Elektra Records. Before I start, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays and stuff like that. Hope everyone had a Merry Christmas. Hope everyone had a Happy Kwanzaa, and can't wait till 2020 happens and stuff like that. New decade rises upon us and whatnot. Alright, so I've already talked about the self-titled Doors album, and I've already talked about Strange Days and Waiting for the Sun. So yeah, of course, I gotta talk about this album next. So after the release of Waiting for the Sun, after the release of Waiting for the Sun, pretty much, the Doors were becoming like very controversial. Like they were controversial, was still reigning supreme around that time too. And so on March 1st, 1969, they gave probably the most controversial performance that almost ended the band. So pretty much Morrison came drunk and stuff like that, and they were performing the song, and all of a sudden Morrison wanted to taunt the crowd and shit like that, talking about, y'all a bunch of slaves and whatnot. And so once they started playing Touch Me, it's been alleged that he showed his dick, or he like decent exposure to the crowd and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people say he did it. A lot of people say he didn't do it, but yeah, he just kept talking. I'm gonna show my dick. I'm gonna show this, that, and stuff like that. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, that was like huge controversy and stuff like that. The bandmates, they said that he didn't show his dick and whatnot, but he was arrested and stuff like that. And so while he was awaiting trial and stuff like that, a lot of the Doors were starting to become banned from like a lot of venues and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of times, like if you want to find like a live performance, like post 1968 of the Doors, like there's like a scattered few and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm definitely gonna talk about that during the video and stuff like that. And with that being said, around this time too, the Doors were like becoming mainstream popularity. Well, not mainstream, but they were becoming like a lot more popular due to like songs like Hello, I Love You, and even like the Waiting for the Sun album alone, compared to like the first two, the self-titled and Strange Days, it's kind of like a lot more light, but not in a bad way. Because yeah, with that album, it's kind of like a hit or miss album with me sometimes too. But yeah, man. With that being said, they were still trying to be experimental with this stuff like that. With this album, they kind of incorporated a lot of jazz and art rock and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they hired like a lot of local jazz horn players such as Doug Rubin and Hardy Brooks and stuff like that. And this was also the album where a lot of people have also said that this was like their weakest studio album, which I'm gonna talk about that. Well, fuck it, I'm just gonna put it out here. This might be very controversial, but I always felt this album was overhated in my opinion. And I'm gonna explain more like throughout the whole review, but I just always thought this album was overhated. Waiting for the Sun pretty much disappointed me on a creative side, but not too bad. But with this album, they like did something very different. And which, like I said, stay tuned for this review because there's a lot to say about this album. With that being said, we also want to talk. I also wanted to give a slight mention to Jim Morrison's vocal ability and stuff like that, because around this time too, his main influence was Elvis, but I was watching the People Are Strange documentary. I want to say that's the name of it, the People Are Strange documentary, and he was talking about how around this time he was listening to a lot of Frank Sinatra and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of songs, like Touch Me, which is played in the background, Wishful Sinful, which I'm gonna talk about, he kind of emulates his Frank Sinatra. So I want to say South Parade and Morrison Motel is Jim Morrison's best album vocally, in my opinion, and stuff. So, and also with this album too, this was also the first album where the band got individual writing credits and stuff like that, because Morrison was not in the studio a lot when they were recording the Stop Parade, and he was kind of like dismayed by some lyrics and stuff like that. So, and it's kind of crazy and stuff like that, because I want to say Krieger basically wrote like the majority of the songs and stuff like that. Robbie Krieger, pretty much. So yeah, this is a very interesting album and stuff like that. Jesus, whoo, that sax solo, man. Alright, and so this is the album cover right here. Out of all the album covers, this is like their most least disappointing one, because I just felt like each of the album covers had like something new, something different. This one is just them chilling and stuff like that. I do like the background, but I just felt like they could do a lot more with it. But especially with I kind of like the Soft Parade. But, and mind you, this is the 2012 reissue remastered edition. They actually re-released this album. I think they're gonna re-release it for the 50th anniversary. They re-released it for the 50th anniversary and stuff like that. So yeah. And I want to say that they're gonna re-release Morrison Hotel next year. Morrison Hotel, next year, stuff like that. So yeah. Whew. Jesus Christ, I cannot wait to talk about this album. And so this cover right here, it just has like the band and just some abstraction or drawing or whatnot. So, all right, let's see. 9 songs. Let's get started. Track number 1, "Tell All the People." Pretty cool song right there. In my opinion, it definitely sounds like they were influenced by Blood, Sweat, and Tears. For those of you who don't know who Blood, Sweat, and Tears are, they are, I want to say like a rock/jazz fusion group and stuff like that. Very popular in like the late 60s to early to mid 70s and stuff like that. They pretty much like, the music reminds me of like a darker, jazzier Chicago. And you guys should know Chicago, they may sound like Saturday in the Park. Does anybody really know what time it is and stuff like that? So yeah. Very dope track right here. "Tell All the People." A little controversy with this track was the fact that Robbie Krieger wrote this, and he thought it would be perfect for Jim Morrison to sing, but Jim Morrison didn't really like the negative imagery in the lyrics portrayed, like certain lines like "Tell all the people, get your guns," and stuff like that. And this was actually the moment where he decided to give everyone individual writing credits with this album. And it's kind of interesting too, because if you were, for all my Doors fans, the performance of "Touch Me," which I think they did on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour and stuff like that. If you guys noticed, like Krieger had like a red eye, a black eye and shit like that. That pretty much happened after an incident where like some rednecks were like harassing John Densmore himself and stuff like that. So yeah, that's very interesting and stuff. But yeah, so "Tell All the People," very dope track. Yeah, man. Next track, "Touch Me." Yeah, this was pretty much, I want to say, the most controversial song off this album. And the reason why I say that, because this was pretty much like the first single, and they were going, that whole brass horn sound pretty much took a lot of people aback and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? They were like, "What the hell is this? This is not what they were used to from the Doors." Because the Doors were known for their like the heavy organ riffs and psychedelic tones of the music and stuff like that. So "Touch Me," me personally, I love the song "Touch Me" and stuff like that. It's definitely one of my favorite Doors songs and stuff like that. Like that beat, that come on, now touch me, babe. Like whoo. And so originally the song was supposed to have been called "Hit Me," because it was based on fights that Robbie Krieger used to have his girlfriend. Either Robbie Krieger or Jim Morrison was his girlfriend. And so Jim Morrison, of course, you know, he insisted on changing it to Touch Me and stuff like that. The sax solo by Curtis Amy though, oh, at the end, oh my fucking god, that's like one of the most dopest sax songs, like so raw and gritty. But the real MVP goes to John Densmore's drumming on this one. The intensity of his drumming on not this whole album, his drumming on this album was so spot on and stuff like that. And finally when the last couple of lines when Jim Moore says "stronger than dirt," it's actually a slogan from an Ajax household cleaning company and stuff like that. And I felt like he did that as a subtle nod at the rest of the members when they wanted to use "Light My Fire" for a car commercial and stuff like that. So I felt that was only Jim Morrison can do some shit like that. Excuse me. Alright. Then we get to Shaman's Blues, which is pretty much one of their bluesiest songs on this fucking track. Vintage Doors. It's a very interesting track because and it's a perfect example why I feel like this album gets overhated by fans and stuff like that, because even though it is still retaining like the brass sound of this album, it still has that vintage, it still got that vintage Doors sound pretty much and stuff like that. That vintage traditional sound and stuff like that. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention Paul A. Rothchild. He still retained producing and stuff like that. And singles are "Touch Me," "Wishful," "Sinful," "Tell All the People," and "Running Blue." So yeah, Shaman's Blues. This was written when I'll put it to you this way, like it's pretty much Jim Morrison pretty much mad at his fans for making him the figure that he is, if that makes sense. It's a pretty complex song and shit like that. One of my favorites from this album, one of my favorite lines was when he says, "Cold grinding grizzly bear jaws, hot on your heels. Do you often stop to whisper? It's sad they sure the whole world's a savior. Who could ever ask for more?" Like I love this track right here, Shaman's Blues and stuff. Track number 4, "Do It." It's an alright track. It wasn't really one of my favorite tracks off the project and stuff like that. Next track, "Easy Ride." My least favorite song off this album. I don't know how people feel about the song, but I just feel like it was like a mixture of psychedelia and country, which is not a good mixture. However, it pretty much talks about the traditional themes where you'll hear plenty of Doors songs like love, lust and stuff like that. So my least favorite track off this album is pretty much filler. Next track, "Wild Child." Very dope track. This track right here is one of like Jim Morrison's best vocal tracks because of the fact it still had that traditional Doors sound and stuff like that. Yeah, man, very dope track. Track number 7, "Running Blue." This was a tribute to Otis Redding and stuff, because you guys should know who Otis Redding is, you know what I'm saying? Legendary soul musician, rest in peace to him. 2 years. Oh, 2 years. 2 years before this album was released, you guys should know Otis Redding died in a plane crash. Him and several members of the original Bar-Kays. And I say original because Um, several members of that, who was it? I think several members of that plane crash went on to form like a new version of Arcade and stuff like that. Who I believe very underrated funk group. That Too Hot to Trot album, man. Come on. Yeah, but I'm getting way off topic. So he had died in a plane crash, and it's kind of interesting because he was scheduled to play with the Doors, which I never knew about until I researched his album during the Winterland Arena in San Francisco. But Chuck Berry ended up taking Otis Redding's place and stuff. And when they were performing When the Music's Over, Jim Morrison said the opening lines like, the opening lines, poor Otis dead and gone, left me here to sing this song. And I want to say Robbie Krieger finished the rest of this track right here. And you guys also know Otis Redding pretty much had a rock following too. Not a lot of soul acts at that time had like a rock following. He was performing at I think the Monterey Pop Festival and stuff like that too. So yeah, rest in peace Otis Redding. I definitely gotta talk about some of his albums too and stuff like that. Yeah man, I'm sorry. Running Lou, very dope track. Next track, Wishful Central. Yes, this was the track where it had the heavy Frank Sinatra influence and stuff like that. Yeah man, very solid song right here. Very solid track right here. Yeah man, just a very vintage Doors and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And the last track off this album, The Soft Parade. In my opinion, my favorite song off this album. One of the most underrated epic songs, as I should say. Like I never hear a lot of people mention The Soft Parade and stuff like that. Yeah man, The Soft Parade, that's definitely a huge track right there, stuff like that, because it definitely had another example of the vintage Doors sound with like the new brass heavy sound with this album and stuff like that. And one thing about this track I read, but I don't know if it's true or not, that when he said the line, "This is the best part of the trip" or whatever, he was getting head from Pamela and stuff like that. So yeah man, and that part where like it goes to that last part like that melody, that's like my favorite part of the whole fucking song and shit like that. And so it's kind of interesting too, because if you guys are fans of the Doors, you guys should know about their performance of the PBS soundstage and stuff like that, because that was the only time really the only time like they really performed and stuff like that, where they performed like a couple songs from The Soft Parade, like Wishful Sinful, Tell All the People, but their prime opus was when they were from The Soft Parade and stuff like that. And mind you, they were banned at that time and stuff. And while they were banned and stuff, there was no audience watching them and stuff. So yeah man, very, very dope. And I'm gonna post that. I'm gonna definitely post that in the description box too and stuff. So that's The Soft Parade. And like I said before, this is a very underrated album by fans. One thing I love about this album was the fact that just them doing different things with the whole jazz heavy influence. Jim Morrison, I felt like, when it comes to vocal, like Jim Morrison, he may not like be the best singer compared to like a lot of people like, Plant, Robert Plant. Of course, like, was very slick in my opinion. Who I always felt like was very dope singer too. But one thing about Jim Morrison was like he always sustained a note, and I always felt like Soft Parade and Morrison Hotel was definitely vocally his best albums and stuff. So yeah man, and like I said before, they re-released this album this year as the 50th anniversary and shit. And even though the reception for this album pretty much gotten better over the years, it still was a long way to go, because still a lot of people want to say that this was their weakest studio album, which I can respect their opinion, but I always feel like people need to give the album a chance. With that being said, this is The Doors Soft Parade, released in 1969, and thank y'all so much for watching this video. Stay tuned for more. Peace.